The news that no one talks about. Welcome to the Silent Newsroom.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today we're diving headfirst into the murky, often ignored pool of underreported issues. You know, those stories that deserve a spotlight but for some reason haven't quite cracked the front page or earned a primetime slot. Now you might be thinking, Jeremy, why focus on the negative? Why not highlight some heartwarming animal rescue stories? And to that I say, those are lovely, truly. But someone's got to wade through the less glamorous stuff, the issues that keep getting swept under the rug. So buckle up, dear viewers, because we're about to embark on a journey through 5 underreported issues that deserve your attention. Our first stop on this whirlwind tour of underreported issues takes us straight into the heart of the American financial system, a place many of us try to avoid thinking about, frankly. But trust me, this is interesting, I promise. We're talking about public banking, an idea that at first glance might sound about as exciting as watching paint dry, but bear with me, because this is actually a potential game changer, folks. Public banking, in a nutshell, means banking institutions owned by the people, by the government, local, state, you name it, rather than by those charming folks on Wall Street. And it's not some pie-in-the-sky socialist fever dream. It's already happening right here in the US of A. Cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles are leading the charge, exploring the possibility of establishing their own public banks. Their goal? To support local businesses, offer affordable financial services to everyday folks, and invest in community projects, you know, the things that actually make life better for regular people. Now, some of you might be thinking, hold on, government running a bank, what could possibly go wrong? And it's a fair point. Government isn't exactly known for its efficiency or business acumen, but before you dismiss the whole idea, consider this. North Dakota, the land of endless plains and surprisingly progressive banking policies, has had a state-owned bank since 1919. That's right, 1919. And guess what? It's actually been incredibly successful. The Bank of North Dakota has consistently outperformed private banks, helped the state weather financial storms, and even returned a tidy profit to the state coffers. Imagine that, a bank that actually works for the people. So why isn't everyone jumping on the public banking bandwagon? Well, for starters, it's not exactly getting the front page treatment. The media, busy chasing the latest celebrity scandal or political mudslinging, hasn't exactly given public banking the attention it deserves. And that's a shame, because public banks have the potential to address some of the most pressing economic issues facing our country today. From the world of finance, we now turn to a somewhat more alarming topic, the looming threat of climate change and its impact on, of all things, nuclear power plants. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nuclear power, isn't that like so last century? And you'd be right, it is a bit retro, but here's the thing. Nuclear power still provides a significant chunk of the world's electricity. And here's where it gets interesting, or rather terrifying. Nuclear power plants, those hulking behemoths of energy production, are surprisingly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. You see, these plants need a lot of water, like a truly alarming amount of water, to stay cool. And as global temperatures rise and sea levels creep upward, that vital cooling water is becoming increasingly scarce and, well, warmer. Not exactly ideal conditions for a facility that houses radioactive material. And if warmer water wasn't enough of a concern, many of these plants are located in coastal areas, putting them directly in the path of increasingly frequent and intense storms and flooding. It's like building a house of cards in a hurricane zone. Now, you'd think this would be headline news, a major cause for concern, but for some reason the media coverage has been, shall we say, underwhelming. Perhaps it's because nuclear power isn't exactly the sexiest topic, or maybe it's just too darn depressing to contemplate. Whatever the reason, the lack of attention is deeply concerning. We need to face the reality that climate change is not some distant threat. It's happening now, and it's already impacting critical infrastructure like nuclear power plants. Chapter 3, The Thin Blue Line, Assaults on Police Officers. For our next story, we turn our attention to those who put their lives on the line every day to keep our communities safe. Police officers. Now, this is a sensitive subject, and I want to be clear that we're not here to debate police brutality or systemic racism in law enforcement. Instead, we're focusing on a specific issue that's often overlooked: the alarming rate of assaults on police officers. Let's take New Zealand, for example. Official data paints a worrisome picture: over 1,000 assaults on officers reported annually since 2022. But here's the kicker. The Police Association believes the actual number could be double that. Double? That means for every reported assault, there's potentially another one shrouded in silence. This discrepancy raises serious questions about the accuracy of reporting and the safety of those sworn to protect us. And it's not just a nationwide issue. Certain regions are bearing the brunt of this violence. 3 districts in particular, counties Manukau, Waikato and Bay of Plenty, consistently report the highest number of assaults. Now, you might be wondering why this discrepancy exists. Why wouldn't every assault be reported? Well, the reasons are complex. Some officers may feel ashamed or fear repercussions for reporting an assault. Others might downplay the severity of an incident, brushing it off as just another occupational hazard. Whatever the reason, the underreporting of assaults on police officers is a serious issue. It hinders our ability to understand the full extent of the problem, to allocate resources effectively, and to implement measures that protect those who protect us. Chapter 4. Food poisoning, the silent epidemic. From the dangers faced by law enforcement, we move on to a threat that lurks in the shadows, striking indiscriminately and often silently. Food poisoning. Now, I know what you're thinking. Food poisoning, isn't that just a bad case of the runs after a dodgy takeaway? And while yes, sometimes it is just that, the reality is far more serious. Food poisoning, or foodborne illness as the experts call it, is a far more widespread problem than many realize. In the United States alone, an estimated 48 million cases occur each year. That's right, 48 million. To put that in perspective, that's more than the population of California and Texas combined. But here's the catch. Only a tiny fraction of those cases, a measly 20,000, are ever officially reported. That means millions of people are suffering in silence, mistaking their symptoms for the flu or a stomach bug, unaware that they've been struck down by a rogue salmonella or a particularly vengeful E. coli. This underreporting has serious consequences. For one, it makes it incredibly difficult to track outbreaks, identify the sources of contamination, and prevent future illnesses. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Moreover, the true cost of food poisoning, both in terms of healthcare expenses and lost productivity, remains largely hidden from view. And as long as this silent epidemic continues, we're all at risk. Chapter 5. Wage theft, the crime that's costing workers billions. For our final stop on this journey through the underbelly of underreported issues, we arrive at a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and probably yours too: our paychecks. Specifically, we're talking about wage theft, a pervasive yet often invisible crime that's robbing workers of billions of dollars each year. Now, wage theft might not sound as dramatic as, say, a bank robbery or a jewel heist, but the impact on its victims is no less devastating. It's a silent epidemic, a slow bleed on the wallets of those who can least afford it: low-wage workers, immigrants, and those struggling to make ends meet. Wage theft takes many forms. It could be an employer shaving hours off timesheets, denying overtime pay, or simply refusing to pay the minimum wage. It could be forcing employees to work off the clock, denying them breaks or meal periods, or illegally deducting expenses from their paychecks. And here's the kicker. It's happening everywhere, from restaurants and retail stores to construction sites and factories. Wage theft has become a ubiquitous feature of our economy. And the worst part? It's often difficult to detect and even harder to prosecute. The victims of wage theft, often afraid of losing their jobs or facing retaliation, are hesitant to come forward. And even when they do, the legal system can be a daunting and expensive obstacle course. Outro. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay vigilant. So there you have it, folks, a glimpse into the often overlooked world of underreported issues. From the potential of public banking to the hidden dangers of food poisoning, from the vulnerability of nuclear power plants to the silent epidemic of wage theft. These are the stories that deserve our attention, our outrage, and most importantly, our action. Because here's the thing. These issues might not be making headlines, but they are impacting real people, real lives, every single day. And the more we know about them, the more we talk about them, the better equipped we are to demand change, to hold those in power accountable, and to create a more just, an equitable world for everyone. So the next time you're scrolling through your newsfeed, feeling overwhelmed by the constant barrage of negativity, remember this: there are always stories beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be told. And it's up to all of us to shine a light on these issues, to amplify the voices of those who are too often ignored, and to demand better for ourselves and for each other. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more important stories.